man, who needs a relationship when I can just eat discounted chocolate while watching a variety of big booby anime bitches and hunky bara titty husbandos as they treat my eyes with fantastic fan service of their amazingly luscious, well-animated bodies. Yes, Valentine's Day. The romantic holiday where people go out and express the love and joy they feel for their significant others with chocolate and perhaps flowers, then usually followed by your typical date like dinner and a movie. Yeah, that couldn't be me though. Because instead I have to deal with my love bug infested customers as I try my hardest to meet their high demands of decent quality chocolate and gift baskets, all the while I question my career choices before I go home with my own chocolate that I bought myself and put on some romance anime to relax after yet another lonely Valentine's Day.
You do realize it's past Valentine's, right?
Wait, what do you mean it's already past Valentine's Day? I guess when you ain't got nobody to share it with, it just feels like any other day. Well, screw it. I'm already this far into the script, so there's not a chance in hell that I'm backing down now. Way back in 2016 was when my anime addiction truly began, with the anime I got into that year being Pokemon XY, the Free series, My Hero Academia, and Naruto. Also, don't worry, I assure you, I wasn't one of those kids who would Naruto run in her gym class, but I did end up joining my high school swim team with some pretty decent scores across the boards, if I do say so myself. Due to all this, suddenly watching anime and reading the library's manga wasn't enough for me, so I turned to what might be considered the ultimate sin of mankind. Fanfiction.net.
Boo!
Oh, quit your booing. I'll have you know that fanfiction.net, while a very cringy site and something that I don't even use anymore, is a lot of our starting points when it comes to our fanfiction reading outside of DeviantArt and Wattpad. Besides, that's not even the reason why I brought it up. I bring it up because this is what led to me finding about slash shipping, and more importantly, boy-x-boy pairings. Tododeku, Renharu, Kiribaku, Sasunaru, you name it, and I probably knew about it. You can already tell where this is going. As a result, this led to me finding out about yaoi animes, much to past me's utter glee. Animes like This Boy Kinda Merman, and no, not to be confused with There's a Merman in My Tub, that should be watched for its gorgeous visuals alone. Juncho Romantica that I'm sorry I dropped out of boredom, and I'm aware that it's popular in the community, but I just thought it was really stale. And of course, that finally leads us to what in my opinion is the holy grail of all yaoi anime, Love Stage. Written by Iki Iki and drawn by Taishi Zau back in 2010 and adapted into an anime in 2014, that's streamable on HIDIVE and Verve. Love Stage is a romantic comedy about Izumi Sina, who's not an ensemble star idol but an 18-year-old otaku that comes from a showbiz family including his mother Nagisa, an actress/model, his father Seiya, a singer starring in multiple musicals as well as owning his own talent agency, and Shogo, Izumi's older brother, celebrity heartthrob, and vocalist of the famous rock band Crushers. They all have quite the resumes, but Izumi ain't about any of that acting stuff and would much rather create the manga of his dreams. That's in the same vein of Lalaloolu, which is very obviously a parody of Sailor Moon, but unfortunately for him, he's got the skills of a 5-year-old, at least to almost everyone around him. As to Izumi, it just seems like there's something ain't quite right with his work. His family's manager Ray is real sick of his shit and wants him to be an actor, so when the opportunity to do a follow-up to a commercial that Izumi starred in as a child falls into his lap, this man signed Izumi's ass up faster than Sarima lost her weight. The real kicker of this whole ordeal is when Izumi played that role to fill in for another child actor, he had to cross-dress as a little girl to catch the flowers tossed by the newlyweds that were ironically played by his parents in the commercial. Obviously meaning that Izumi will quite literally have to dress for success to be able to do this commercial. All of this just because his mom is simping hard for Ryoma Ichijo, aka Ryoma Kokichijo, who's now a famous star actor and also Izumi's child co-star in the commercial from 10 years ago. However, the only reason that this commercial even has the same cast is because it was the condition that Ryoma gave them in order to be a part of this, as ever since that commercial he found himself in love with this female co-star, thinking Izumi is a she when my guy, you don't know this, but it was a trap. And after teaching us bribery with exclusive merch is the only way to truly sell out, Izumi finds himself roped into both show business and a dress despite his earlier complaints, and that's where our main couple finally encounters each other, with Ryoma bringing him flowers to his dressing room and even later giving Izumi his lucky charm to help him calm down during shooting. Ryoma even takes it a step further to confess the love he's had for Izumi for 10 long years, but unfortunately before Izumi can let him down, a wild Shogo appears, having heard the whole thing, and because of his brother's complex, isn't letting go of his precious brother without a fight, and reveals that she is a he in a moment that was unneeded, really, but it was so hilarious to see happen anyway. As a result, it causes Ryoma to fall into despair, only to quickly turn to anger, labeling Izumi as a cross-dressing pervert to cover up the fact that he's really flustered about this new development. Which ain't very cash money of you, Ryoma. It's 2021, let the man wear a dress if he damn well pleases. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're jealous he looks so good in it, cause I know I'd kill to look that good in a dress. Later on, we see that even with his earlier outburst, that doesn't stop Ryoma from dreaming about Izumi, along with thinking about him during work, causing him to have trouble focusing, despite knowing that he is a he. This ends up with him coming up with the idea to see Izumi again, believing if he can just engrave the fact that Izumi is truly a man, he can just erase 10 years worth of feelings once and for all, so he can move on with his life. Good luck with that. After 7 long years, I still hold Hatsune Miku close to my heart, and that hasn't even changed in the slightest, so I'm actually kinda curious of how you plan on doing it. Oh, you're just planning to strip him down. That's actually a pretty good— wait a minute, watch where you're putting your yaoi hands on my boy! Ironically, this just ends up backfiring on Ryoma, as when he finally gets Izumi's clothes off of him, it has the opposite effect, finding Izumi attractive, so he decides to do the thing that is my most major pet peeve when it comes to yaoi, and that's not having a care about the lack of consent in this situation, and I've only now just decided to call the no means go card, as he begins to assault Izumi in this scene that's framed to be uncomfortable, with the animation making Ryoma looking like a faceless attacker, with Izumi begging him to stop. Thank God before things get worse, a pissed Shogo appears yet again and gives Ryoma a good whack on the head, then the scene shifts back into Ryoma's bedroom, looking like he woke up from another dream. But the giant welt on his head says otherwise. What's surprising about this anime that I didn't notice back when I first watched it, because at that point I hadn't seen too many boys love anime, is that Izumi actually holds Ryoma accountable for his actions, which you didn't really see happen often. And what would really usually go down is that the simi would force themselves upon the uke despite being asked to stop, and afterwards it was treated as if they either liked it or if they were suddenly confused when they realized they're now in love. And look, I know a lot of yaoi falls under that category, especially the older ones when it comes to explicit content, but I really hate when any media does it, because it's really uncomfortable to think about being forced to do something with somebody you weren't okay with, and then suddenly you're okay with it because now you're in love with this person for doing it to you. It never sits right with me, so it's honestly a warm welcome when this anime subverts your expectations by making Ryoma actually have to put in the effort to gain Izumi's trust back, and not instantly getting Izumi to be in love with him when he apologized. It's a good change of pace and we need more of it, so you better be taking notes, Juin. You're still in my class for this reason. In any case, that's all you really need to know for the plot of Love is Stage TM, since after all, I don't want to spoil what happens next, so if you're really super curious about it, you can bookmark this video and go watch it, but if you're ready to keep going, then let's move forward. One of the best features this anime has over others is that it has Rei Sakura, because aside of a lot of the relatable humor that Izumi gives off, Rei had me cackling from his doesn't give two shits assertive attitude. I genuinely think that he's the funniest character I've ever seen in a boys love anime. Yes, I'm being dead ass. If you believe that there's a character funnier than Rei, my comment section is always open for debate. But seriously, this man is a comedic legend and I'm so thankful for his existence. However, that's not all his character has to offer. Rei's hubba hubba hotness isn't it either, seeing as he's actually a pretty interesting character behind those glasses of his, and it makes him a great contrast to Izumi, who doesn't have any idea on how to handle a guy coming onto him, whereas Rei is quite experienced in that area, currently being in a relationship of his own and many in the past with both men and women, which is actually revealed in the spin-off manga Backstage. Saying all this makes it sound like he would make my exceedingly long simplest, but admittedly though, Love Stage is one of the few anime where I actually don't simp for anyone. Oh, come on, how is that surprising? I don't even simp that much. After all, I pride myself for my amazing self-control. Look, I'm still a woman with a lot of needs, okay? Love Stage is very self-aware of its genre, and it's constantly taking jabs and calling out common tropes found in yaoi. A good example is when Izumi is trying to wrap his head around top and bottom roles, believing he had to be a bottom. That is until Rei poses a pretty good point in what has to be the funniest moment in all shonen AI history.
それじゃあ仕方ありません。突っ込まれるのが嫌なら突っ込めばいいんですよ。突っ込めばいいんですよ。突っ込めばいいんですよ。
He's seriously not wrong, like for real. How many boys love anime, manga, and manhwa do you know actually play around with this idea back in 2014? Even nowadays, it's still not an often subversion that happens, and it's never questioned either by BL characters, as if the answer is just obvious when things get down to it. I mean, sure, they bring up the idea time from time, but it's usually played off as a joke, so nothing really comes from it. Okay. Whew. I've really gone off topic, so let me just get back to the characters, but really, there's only one other character that makes a huge impact on the anime story, and that's Shogo, Izumi's brother who I mentioned earlier, and this is just a little nitpick. But while the anime captured him really well, there's just something about manga Shogo that really hits different, if you know what I mean. That's not me simping, by the way, that's just me noticing. Just noticing. Anyway, besides that, Shogo is a pretty laid-back character all around, and as I said before, has a deep-rooted brothers complex that thankfully doesn't get into the super lovers territory. I think I'd rather commit banana fish than witness such a crime to my innocent eyes again. Shogo just genuinely cares for both Izumi and his future. Plus, like Rei, Shogo thinks Izumi can excel at acting, but less because he has a talent for it, and more because Izumi is just so darn cute. It's also revealed in backstage, Izumi sees Shogo and his partner, who I will not disclose to keep from spoilers, as more parental figures than Seiya and Nagisa due to their demanding careers, leaving them absent in his childhood. This is me basically telling y'all to read backstage, as it honestly deserves to be noted along with Love Stage, since it really fleshes out the characters even further than both the anime and the manga could do by themselves. Love Stage is animated by JC Staff Studios, and some of their popular works include classic romance anime staples like Toradora and Maid-sama, but also while these aren't romance animes, I want to include they produce Food Wars and Don Manchi, along with an anime that's vastly underrated by a good portion of fans, High Score Girl. I really enjoy how the animation looks in Love Stage, as I believe it captures the art style really well, with the colors being a lot more vibrant than the original cover illustrations, but it's a very much welcome change in my opinion. And with the colors being a lot more eye-catching, you don't really focus much on the backgrounds, which do a fine job on their own, and really the most notable thing about the backgrounds are the characters and how they have no colors to them outside of their green outlines and shadings, which is both creative and fitting for them since they aren't important in the first place, but it's still no doubt a nice touch. On the other hand though, we have the soundtrack, which is decent at best, nothing really fantastic, but if I heard the music in the background, I'd be able to tell what it's from with a, oh, that sounds like it's from Love Stage. Don't get it wrong though, that doesn't include how incredible the OP is. Like, oh my god, let me get my dancing shoes on so I can go to town like an idiot, because I swear on my love for Rim that I never ever skip this OP, as it's one of the highlights for me when I rewatch this anime, especially when I was rewatching it for this video. Now, I believe I've gone over everything you really need to know about Love Stage before you start watching, and as you can tell, Love Stage is a hilariously cute love story that's a subversion about your typical yaoi anime tropes with a fun cast of characters, quality animation, and a decent soundtrack. So, I know this is pretty much the end of the video, but I still wanted to add this fun little tidbit about the English dub of Love Stage. So the English VA, Michael Tatum, voices both Rei Ryuzaki from Free and Rei in Love Stage, and Greg Aries, the English VA who voices Nagisa Hazuki, also voices Izumi, but as interesting as that is, the really funny thing is that he also voices Monokuma in the Danganronpa anime, which makes my new headcanon that after Izumi falls into despair after his manga gets rejected, the blonde twink then goes on to start the killing game in Danganronpa.
I love it.
What? What crack? Let me see. Oh my god. Oh man, I only dropped it once!